G to the right of me, YouTube Live, my first ever live stream from YouTube. Y'all let me know, if I'm not coming through clearly, if I'm too loud, if I'm too low, whatever. I don't know, y'all. This is a first for me, using StreamYard for the first time. So y'all gonna have to bear with me, all right? Give me a little grace, because this may take a while to get used to. Like I said, y'all just let me know. I don't know how my mic sound. I pre-tested everything to see if I was coming through clearly and whatnot, making sure I wasn't too loud or too low. It was cool. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. This is not really my really my field of expertise. Normally, I got buddies that I depend on to help me put my content together, use their equipment, their studio setups and whatnot. And about a month ago, just to give you guys a little background, I called a boy of mine, of another podcaster, one of my best friends I've been knowing since high school. And I said, listen, man, I got another discussion, something else I want to put out there, man. I want to get some more stuff off my chest. And he said, man, listen, bro. He said, man, you got to get your own setup, man. Not that he was like mad at me or that he was getting sick and tired of helping me, but he's just like, listen, man, you need to be able to put your content out when you want to, so that way you don't have to rely on me because what you have to say is too important. He's like, bro, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. All you got to do, I mean, you got everything you need. I got a microphone and a camera, thanks to my good friend Chad Jackson. And appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. My homeboy Neil in the building. He say, yeah, man, you got everything you need. It's really not that hard. It's really not that hard. When I think about it, I always sort of compare my capabilities to what I see a lot of other YouTubers doing. And that's not entirely fair to me, because a lot of folks, I mean, they've been doing it a lot longer than I have. And so it's going to take me a little time to get used to it. IG, if y'all hear IG Live, head over to YouTube, try to help me out over there. I got more subscribers and followers, whatever you call them, on Instagram. So if y'all can help me out, give your boy a holla over at YouTube, I'd appreciate it. So yeah, let's get into this, man. We're gonna build it as we fly it, as the late Kevin Samuels used to say. We build it as we fly it. So let's see how it goes. I was playing around, they got the little features on StreamYard where you could put up pictures and audio and play clips and show stuff and all that. So I'm playing around with it, y'all. I'm gonna figure it out. And y'all just walk with me on this. We're gonna figure it out. I didn't want to do a live first and foremost. I wanted to do a pre-record, but with StreamYard, some of y'all probably know this because some of y'all probably YouTubers yourselves. But the little plan I got, because it costs money, they only let you do two hours of pre-recorded footage a month. And I'm like, dude, one of my YouTube, just one YouTube video that I do is over 2 hours, so that wasn't gonna work. So I figured I'd just jump into the live because I wanted to do pre-recorded so I can play around with this thing first, so that way I can filter out any mistakes. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I wasn't gonna pay for the advanced plan. Not until maybe some of this YouTube money start rolling in or something. I don't know. But I'm just messing around with y'all because this ain't about money for me. I just do this because I enjoy it. Sorry I'm late. I know 2:30, it's after 3. But man, wife, 3 children, and a dog. So y'all, we just go pray for the best. I got the house empty. My kids and wife are gone. My dog is still here though. She's sitting over there, sitting down. And she's a barker, y'all. She's a barker and a howler. Right now she's quiet. So fingers crossed. Hopefully if she start cutting up, the microphone to cut out any background noise. So that ain't what y'all came for though, but I figured I would just butter the crowd up a little bit, let y'all know what I've been up to. Sitting back, like I said, chilling while cutting through the cultures on break because Chad is busy preparing the documentary. Blanche, myself, Keisha, we was like, you know what? Let's just use this time to go back to our mutual corners and focus on our own stuff. And so that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. So it's time for me to jump out here. And so let's get into it. So as you can see, the title, YouTube, Instagram, is Iran, the True Satan. Iran, the True Satan. Now, I had this lecture I try not to call my videos lectures because I don't want to sound pretentious. But, I call them discussions or talks or whatever because I'm not technically an academician. But, it is what it is. So I just want to put that out there because I don't have any delusions of grandeur about myself. But, just put it to you like this. I've been in rooms with many PhDs and they don't impress me. So I've had this ready for a while. I haven't had time to put it out. So yeah, now is the time. So this may seem a little bit like outdated because I really wanted to jump on this when everything was going down. You know what I'm talking about with Iran about a month ago, a little over a month ago. But the information is still relevant because Iran is still here. Iran hasn't gone anywhere. And best believe that was just one chapter in this never-ending story, this book that hasn't yet reached its final chapter. Best believe. So let's get into it. So now I'm reading from my notes now, guys. So enough of the BS. Let's get into it. So I got two laptops, y'all. I got two laptops. I got one where I'm StreamYard, and I got another one where I'm just reading from my notes because I had to get a new computer to be able to do this. And I don't have Microsoft Office on my new laptop yet, but I do on my old one. So we're gonna read from the notes that I have here. Y'all follow along, get your pen, get your pads, your pens ready, because we're gonna get into the history of Iran. Okay. So let's go. So, and again, y'all let me know if anything goes awry. So that way, I can try to fix it, do what I can. Maybe y'all can help troubleshoot from the live chat. So let's get it. Again, IG, jump over to on my story, go to my story. I got the link in there. Y'all hop over to YouTube, show your boy some love. All right, so on Saturday, July 5th, the day after Independence Day, Tucker Carlson announced in an online post that he had conducted an interview remotely through a translator with the president of Iran, Mosaddegh. And let me put out another disclaimer. Please pardon me for some of the bad pronunciations. I'm going to try to do the best I can. I even went online and, you type something in and you ask Google, how do you pronounce something? And I tried to memorize a lot of these Farsi pronunciations. So I'm going to do my best. So pardon me if I mispronounce something. Anything that sounds a little weird, I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly. I'll give you guys the spelling. Okay. So Mosaddegh, Carlson said, and I know many of you saw this, Carlson stated, quote, "There are all kinds of questions I didn't ask the president of Iran, particularly questions to which I knew I could not get an honest answer." Ain't that rich? Such as, quote, "Was your nuclear program totally disabled by the bombing campaign by the US government a week and a half ago?" This, of course, is in reference to Operation Midnight Hammer, a U.S. military stealth bombing operation conducted on June 22nd, 2025. That was a while ago. Which targeted 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Now, let's rewind. Now, you hear what Tucker says. He says that there are all kinds of questions I didn't ask the president of Iran, particularly questions to which I knew I could not get an honest answer. So wait, let me get this straight, Tucker. So there are certain questions that you were confident that he was going to tell you the truth. And so those were the ones you asked him. So in other words, what would be the point of you asking him the question in the first place? Because if you know what the truth is, then you know the answer. Because if you know what the truth is, if he tells you something other than what you know the truth to be, then you know he's lying. But this is Tucker Carlson, ladies and gentlemen. A man who has so fallen from grace that it's hard to put it into words. So let's continue. Without walking, this is me, these are my words. Without walking through that entire sham interview, here are just a few questions that plagued the mind of Mr. Carlson. These are his words. In his words, he stuck to quote unquote simple questions such as, quote, what is your goal? Do you seek war with the United States? Do you seek war with Israel? See, those are the questions to which Tucker believed that he would get an honest answer. Tucker claimed in his trailer pitch for this interview that the point of such questions is not to get to absolute truth. That's another word, another term used by Mr. Carlson. Let me start that over. Tucker claimed in his trailer pitch for this interview that the point of such questions is not to get to absolute truth, but to add to the corpus of knowledge, his words, his description, corpus of knowledge from which Americans can draw their opinions. So if you sat down and you watched that interview with the president of Iran, Mr. Masoud Pezeshkian, do you feel like that you have arrived closer to the truth? Do you think you know more about Iran's political ambitions after watching that interview? I'm just curious. I want you guys' opinions. Do you think, okay, all right. The horseshoe theory. The left and the right, the woke right and the woke left coming together. What my boy said in the comment section. So let's move on. So if you were unsatisfied with that information, you may have gleaned from Tucker's probing interview, during which time he pressed the president of Iran harder than he did a sitting member of the Senate in Ted Cruz. Of course, you can sense the sarcasm, right? Of course. Right. But I wonder if the president of Iran knew the population of Israel. Ted Cruz didn't know. I wonder if the president of Iran knew. Hell, I wonder if the president of Iran knows the population of the citizens in his own country. Tucker didn't ask him that, did he? I don't know. Did he? Did anybody watch it? Did you all watch it? As he stares there with that stupid face, Tucker does that thing where he goes, tries to make you think, right? He gaslights you by playing stupid, trying to act all inquisitive and stupid little smart. That's how you know when somebody is being serious. They're squinting and they're looking and then turns his head to the side like a fucking K9, like he's concentrating. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Right. And of course, we've all read about the Qatari paper, which discloses the activities of Lumen 8 Advisors LLC and the Qatari embassy, right? About a lot of the Qatari and Iranian money that's flowing into the United States. Many of these monies being given to conservative media. Did y'all hear about that? I did. Is Tucker Carlson on Qatar's payroll? What do you think? It really doesn't matter, does it? But I figured I'd put that out there. I didn't feel the need to get into that. And of course, Irandis Owens, I ain't forgot about your sorry ass either. I'll be back for you. You can go ahead and hit that Cash App, though. You can give me that 10K real quick, huh? And I'll tell you which Mossad agent or which Jewish rabbi contacted me to put this video out. Let's see, how stupid is that? How stupid is that? That this woman, mind you, just made the claim, put it out there, and we're moving on to the next thing, right? On to the Harvey Weinstein interview, right? It's like, dog. So you mean to tell me you have evidence that Jewish dark money is paying some of these low rent struggle streamers, to quote Dr. Umar Johnson? I heard somebody on social media call him Dr. Umois. Boy, I tell you, the comment section on YouTube is hilarious. And on Instagram too, by the way. So you mean to tell me that lesser known YouTubers are being contacted by Jewish money to put out smears, to put out negative content smearing you and Tucker Carlson, and you claim you have proof of this? And your proof is that you are willing to pay 10 grand to anybody willing to admit that they were contacted by Jewish money to put out slanderous materials about you. Think about that for a second, right? So Israel or Jewish dark money or some rabbi, some synagogue is paying me or people like me to put out material about you. In other words, giving me incentive to lie, but your money is going to give me incentive to tell the truth. You don't even have to take your video down. Just admit you were paid and I'll pay you 10 grand. And some of y'all still believe this woman. Some of y'all follow up behind everything she says. Candace Owens is a truth teller. Oh, is she? Amazing. You make it make sense. Candace Owens. Sorry, somebody else called her. I love to play on words. They playing all types of games with her name. Candace Owens. I saw somebody call her Iran. There's somebody called her. I heard somebody call her Clan. What's it? Clandis. I guess like the Ku Klux Klan or whatever. You know. I said, make a joke. Yeah, I wonder. You know, with this whole lawsuit thing and with the Macrons, somebody said, I wonder if she managed to comprise a legal team without a Jew on it. Hey, how rich would that be if we found out that Candace Owens had a team of Jewish lawyers? How rich would that be? Even if she had one, I mean, can you imagine? How hilarious. So now, before we move, let's get into Iran. Let's get into Iran. I just had to give you guys a little bit of a preamble, let you know what kind of prompted me to put this out, right? So now, before we get into modern Iran, let's go back to the formation of the Persian Empire. Now we're starting to get into the meat. Now we're getting into the information. I'll try to run through this as quickly as I can because surprise, surprise, I thought that I'd be able to put this together in just one neat package, talk about Iran and be done with it. I didn't even want to go back to talking about the Middle East, but you know, the more I think I'm out, you know, as Michael says in The Godfather 3, right? They pull me back in. So now we're going to get into this. But of course, I did not get to everything that I want to discuss. So this is going to be the first installment of my series on Iran. Hopefully I can sum this up in less than 3. Maybe we could just do 2 parts and then we can move on. So let us get to the formation of the Persian Empire, which was prophesied in the book of Isaiah, where Cyrus becomes God's instrument. Okay, so we're going to read from the Bible a little bit, and we're going to read from the Quran as well. Not today, but we're going to get to the Quran eventually. But let's read from the Bible. Let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verses 1 through 3. Isaiah chapter 45, verses 1 through 3. My boy Blanche said they contacted me twice. I want 2K, 20K, I mean. Right. Clown. Okay, the book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verses 1 through 3 reads, "Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden to subdue nations before him. And I will loose the lions of the loins of kings, to open before him the levied gates, the leaved gates. And the gates shall not be shut. I will go before thee and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass and cut in sunder the bars of iron. And I will give thee the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest know that I, the Lord, which called thee by thy name, am the God of Israel." So for those of you who don't understand what that means, my camera still on? Oh, okay, I thought my camera cut off on me. Can y'all still see me out there? My camera did some little weird clicking noise. I'm gonna make sure it's still on. Can y'all still see me on YouTube? Because it looks like my camera shut off on me. You can still see me? Okay, bet. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, what it's describing here is Cyrus was called by the Lord, the God of Israel, to subdue nations and restore Israel. And in doing so, Cyrus will be given great strength, treasures, and hidden riches, so that Cyrus would know that he is in God, is the God of Israel. King Cyrus, this is what I put, the world's first Zionist. Y'all don't like that word, do you? And I deliberately put that word in the title of this video because, you know, when I was doing my my last little montage piece, whatever you want to call it, before the term woke right became popular on social media, I think the term was coined by James Lindsay. I would tell you guys a little behind the stage story about James Lindsay. I've never spoken to him personally, but he and I became this close to doing a video together on YouTube. It just didn't pan out. And I speculate. I think I know why he and I didn't link up, but I mean, you know, if you were put it like this, if you were James Lindsay, I mean, if you don't know me, I mean, and James Lindsay was presented some of my my content, some of my YouTube content. But if you didn't know me, you know, and if you're James Lindsay, I mean, I get it. I get it. It's like I don't know this guy, you know, and so I you know, he has a name and a reputation to worry about, so he has to tread lightly in terms of who. So I get it. I get it. But he and I were this close. So I thought it was going to happen. That would have been a big surprise. James Lindsay and Chuck Littleton together. But I think it was James Lindsay who coined the term woke right. But before I myself, I was thinking, I couldn't think of a name for it. So I called it the neo-populist right, or the new populist movement, or what you're hearing now also on social media is this what they call the horseshoe theory, that once you become so extreme on the left or the right, the poles begin to come together and they begin to merge and form a horseshoe. And so when I did my whole series on the neo-populist right, or neo-populism, I was contacted by a friend of mine who follows my YouTube content. He said, yeah, man, people was reaching out to me like, man, your boy Chuck tripping. Your boy Chuck what is he, a Zionist? Is he a Zionist? Now, I never came out and said, I'm a Zionist, I'm a this, I'm a that. Of course, I will defend Israel to the end, tooth and nail. But see, those are the kinds of phrases that I would hesitate I would be hesitant to make such claims, because I know how loaded this topic is. And a lot of people, when they hear the term Zionism, I hate to use this term, but I borrow a term from the left, they're automatically triggered, because the word comes with such weight and such gravitas. Once you throw it out there, then all of a sudden people retreat into their corners and they begin to argue from a point of view that they think they are already familiar with. They automatically sort of shut their brains off, right? But what does it mean to be a Zionist? I just simply try to look at it and kind of academically, I guess from a scholarly point of view, from an academic point of view, that's the word. I just wanted to explain, you know, it just explains some things, right? Without really going in and saying, well, here's what you know. And so you see in the title, I said that I am a proud Zionist, because, you know, I'm sick and tired of playing games with people. Because if you're going to call me a Zionist anyway, then I don't give a damn. I'll just be one. What's wrong with that anyway, right? What does it even mean? So if you want to hear me talk more about that, and check out some of my earlier videos, particularly part 3 of my neo-populist series titled Defense of a Righteous Cause, where I defend the cause of Zionism. Now, let's rewind. Let's go. Let's stay with the Bible. Let's rewind. Let's go back. Let's rewind to 2 Chronicle chapter 36, verses 22 and 23, where it reads, Is it 22 and 23? Oh, let me go back. I think I got that wrong. Yes, 22 and 23. Second Chronicles chapter 36. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and also put it in writing. Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, the God of heaven has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever is among you of all his people, may the Lord his God be with him. Let him go up. So we see here the fulfillment of God's command through the prophet Jeremiah that Jewish exiles from Babylon return to Jerusalem. King Cyrus then issued a decree ordering the reconstruction of the temple in Jerusalem, thus ending 70 years of captivity by the Babylonians and the restoration of Judah. Judah, of course, is the southern portion of the once unified kingdom ruled by King Solomon. Jerusalem, of course, is situated in Judah. And let us not get into the destruction of Solomon's temple by King Nebuchadnezzar II. Again, we won't get off into all of that, but you all know the history and the kingdom, Judah to the south, I believe Israel to the north. But I got a question for you guys. Where are the Muslims? Where are the Arabs? Where are the Palestinians? Or the Philistinians? Where are they when all this is happening? No Muslims? No Arabs? I thought about reading to you all the Edict of Restoration, said to have been proclaimed by King Cyrus in 538 BC, but it's a bit long. So you can read it for yourselves in the book of Ezra, chapter 1, verses 1 through 11. Again, the book of Ezra, chapter 1, verses 1 through 11. That's the Edict of Restoration put forth by King Cyrus. Also, you may reference the decree of Darius the First. Darius the First, the third king of Persia, in Ezra, chapter 6, verse 8. King Cyrus, the first ruler of Persia, also known as Cyrus the Great or Cyrus the Second. He established now you're going to have to bear with me, like I told you about these pronunciations, the Achaemenid dynasty. Sometimes you'll hear the Persian Empire referred to as the Achaemenid Empire or the Achaemenid dynasty. The Achaemenid dynasty, or the first Persian Empire in 550 BC, after the defeat of King Astyages. King Astyages, who was the king of Media to the north of what is now modern-day Iran. As an aside, Cyrus the Great is the grandson of the original Cyrus, Cyrus the First, who was king of Ashan for a considerable amount of time during the 7th or 6th century before succumbing to Assyrian rule sometime in 629 BC. I say round about 6th or 7th century because the history and the information we have passed down to us of Cyrus the First is grainy at best. So a lot of it is, circa or estimated time. We don't know. So the Cyrus prophesied about in the Bible is Cyrus the Second, not Cyrus the First. Persia became, again, I'm just laying the foundation of Persia, ladies and gentlemen. So we're gonna walk through this, but the whole history during the ancient stuff, we're not gonna go into the weeds too much, but we're just gonna play with it a little bit. Persia became a territorial juggernaut stretching into parts of modern day, well, it is situated in modern day Iran. It stretched into parts of present day Iraq, Turkey, Egypt, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and parts of Greece. From 550 BC to roughly 330 BC, Persia was the most powerful and largest empire in the world. That is until the Achaemenid dynasty was dismantled in a series of military campaigns led by Alexander III of Macedon, also known as Alexander the Great, beginning with the Battle of Chronakis in 334 BC. Now, this monumental event paved the way for the later advance of Christianity into the Near and Middle East by the spreading of Hellenic values into parts of Africa and Asia. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the spread of Hellenic culture is what laid the groundwork for the later spread of Christianity, particularly in the Near and Middle East, that is parts of Africa and Asia. What up, though, Kev? Hop on over to YouTube, man. Show me some love over there. I'm sure you already subscribed to my YouTube channel. I'm just letting you know. That's where I'm at right now, live streaming on YouTube. Anyway, back to here. Here we go. Down but not out. We're talking about the Achaemenids or the Persians. The Persians would strike back, defeating the Seleucid dynasty, a royal house of Macedonian Greeks. Because remember, Alexander the Great died rather unceremoniously at the age of, I think, 32. He had no heirs. How Alexander the Great died, I don't know. Some of you maybe could put it in the comment section if you have a theory. There are a lot of theories about what killed Alexander. History isn't quite sure, though. Some say he died of I forgot what sickness it was that was going around back then. A lot of people died from. Some people believe that he was assassinated, that he was poisoned. But the reality is that, we just don't know. I guess you can go with the consensus. Now, the Persians would strike back, defeating the Seleucid dynasty. Now, remember, again, the Alexander's expanding empire. Once he died, the empire was fractured. It broke into smaller empires that were led by his respective military generals. You had Ptolemy, of course, to the west, in parts of northern Africa, Egypt, and you had the larger empire that was started by another one of his military generals, a man by the name of Seleucus. So you had the General Ptolemy to the west, and you had the General Seleucus to the east, and that became known as the Seleucid, or the the Seleucid Empire, after the Seleucid dynasty, which was founded by General Seleucus of Alexander the Great's of Macedon's army around 250 BC, right? This is the Persians. This is when they struck back against the Seleucid dynasty, just in case you lost me, in 250 BC, and established the Parthian Empire, considered by some to be the second Persian Empire, ruling much of Persia, Mesopotamia, and parts of Arabia for several centuries. If you look at a map, this is when the bringing in of images would come into play. But since we rolling we streaming, we rolling good. I don't want to. Y'all want. I see. I'm scared, y'all. I don't even want to play around with nothing because I don't know how to use the StreamYard yet. I will show you guys the map of the Parthian Empire and the Seleucid Empire, the Ptolemaic Empire. But you can go and pull it up. I don't even want to touch nothing, y'all. I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't want to mess nothing up because I'm not technically sound. I keep telling y'all that over and over again. I know y'all tired of hearing me say it. I'm not stupid, y'all. I swear. Eyes not stupid, boss. I just don't know how to work StreamYard yet where I can play around with this. But yeah, the Parthian Empire. The Parthian Empire was a combination of East and West. Now follow me now, because this is where it gets tricky. The Parthian Empire was a combination of East and West, reestablishing Persian customs and political structures while maintaining major elements of Greek language and culture. It's very important. It's a bit of foreshadowing, very key. But let's back up. Let's back up for a second. During the reign of the Seleucid dynasty, what became of the Jews? Just thought I'd put that in there. Well, in response to the Greek Hellenization campaign, a revolt against the Jews began, which led to the rise of the legendary but often forgotten Judas Maccabeus, aka the Hammer of the Jews. Now, this is interesting. This is interesting. And Judas Maccabeus, sometimes I hear him referred to as Judah Maccabee. I mean, he ranks right up there with some of the greatest military strategists and tacticians in world history. But he's just not mentioned or brought up enough, perhaps because of his limited ambition. I suppose he isn't really regarded as one of the great military minds in human history, but he was. And so this is interesting because this is another example of the dilemma of Jewish assimilation, right? Part of the Greek Hellenization campaign, the goal and the point was to try and create a more, I guess, a more consolidated Greece with a stronger sense of national pride and civic identity. And you have this small group of people over here doing their own little weird thing and circumcising their kids and their weird little eating rituals and praying rituals and habits and stuff. These strange little folks, right? It's like, okay, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you'll never be one of us. But when you sequester yourself and you just say, okay, I just want to be left alone, then you start, you see motherfuckers doing like, Mr. Wilson in Home Improvement. You're peeking over the fence trying to see what they doing over there, right? So what the fuck, what they doing over there, right? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So Jewish assimilation has always been a serious issue, right? Because they do assimilate to a degree, and then of course when they when it suits someone's political agenda, right? And then that individual is looking for a scapegoat. Well, then all of a sudden they have to find someone to blame. And this is not just true of Jews in various countries throughout history. This has always been true of these warring factions or warring ethnic groups that have to share national space or demographics or different separate groups confined within national borders. You see this all over the world. I don't know if you all are familiar with a phenomenon that was popularized in Malaysia called Alibaba Enterprises. You can look this up. Alibaba Enterprises, Alibaba Enterprises. These are businesses that are ran by minorities, or should I say, so because sometimes you see government policies are implemented to protect the interests of the majority, and sometimes they're put in place to protect the interest of a quote unquote minority. So say, for example, in the United States here, if I'm Black, we'll say I want the government to create certain programs or create certain set-asides to benefit me, because I can't leave it up to the market, to the private sector, because there's so much racism and hatred and bigotry and so on and so forth that they'll never give me a fair shot and a fair shake. So I need you to use your ability to coerce behavior, to punish unwanted or illegal behavior, such and so forth. I need you to do that for me, because I cannot get a leg up in the society because people don't like me, right? And so that's an example of the federal government doing something to help a minority. But there have been instances in society where these things are done to help majorities when the minority outperforms them. The reason why this was popularized in Malaysia, this phenomenon known as Alibaba Enterprises, was because there is a significant and sizable Chinese population in Malaysia. And the Chinese population would outpace the Malay population. I believe it was the Chinese, right? Yeah, it was the Chinese, Indians. There, you know, a lot of different folk, you know, different ethnic groups in Malaysia. This is all part of the colonial project. Yeah, people's, you know, moving about. European colonialists and merchants would invite other folk with certain skills to come to various countries and help certain industries. And so, you know, when you had different phases or pushes for decolonization, a lot of these ethnic groups would stay behind. And once countries like Malaysia and the wars in Sri Lanka and India and all across the African continent, once the Europeans left, all hell broke loose because these different ethnic groups simply got back to business as usual, because a lot of these internecine rivalries amongst ethnic groups were conflicts and rivalries that had been centuries old, had nothing to do with colonization or interference from the white man. And so oftentimes when the white man would leave, you would have native folks looking at these minorities like the Chinese, like Jews, like Germans, etc., who were doing better than them. And that's when a lot of these civil wars broke out in the 18 and 1900s during phases and eras of decolonization. And so oftentimes when people say, you know, they're always trying to lift up every rock to see where they can find a Jew hiding, right? Oftentimes it's because the government, and this is various countries, right? I mean, again, the term Alibaba enterprises were popularized in Malaysia, but the phenomenon is universal, because oftentimes you would have frontmen, because in order for you to be guaranteed certain government contracts and set asides, the governments of these various nations all over the world would say, your CEO or this particular protected group, minority or majority group, had to have a majority share in terms of what's the word I'm looking for when you're talking about capital and equity in a business. So you all get my point. In other words, this business must be owned by this protected group. And so oftentimes Jews who were better suited to run particular industries either had to, of course, depending upon the context, they would have to change them. And I'm going to give you an example of someone who plays a pivotal role in the story of Iran. They would have to anglicize or Germanize themselves. You know, you get what I'm saying, assimilating. So in order to kind of hide their Jewish roots or Jewish identity, because certain government set-asides were not allowed for people like them, because those with the political capital to put the needed pressure or the requisite pressure upon the government to enact laws did so at the expense of those with the human capital to actually excel in the private sector. So oftentimes you would have a non-Jewish person pretend to be the head of a business, when behind the scenes, the business was actually ran by Jews or other minority individuals. And so you say, well, why they're behind the scenes running everything? Oftentimes they couldn't operate out in the open because the governments of these various nations would not allow it. In short, and this isn't just true of Jews. This is true of Chinese people all over the world. This is true of Indian people all over the world. It's true of I mean, it happened time and time again. It's true of German people all over the world. If you look into the history of Russia, there's a lot of German immigrants in Russia who were treated extremely bad, treated very poorly, treated very badly as being ethnic Germans living in Russia. There's a whole history. For those of you who think you understand oppression and this and that and who's doing what, the story is far more complicated than you might understand. Here is how the February 2009, volume 10, number 4 issue of a magazine called Military History described a particular episode when Antiochus IV dispatched a Greek general, Apollonius, to quell a Jewish insurrection. Here's the magazine, quote, "The Seleucid troops massacred most of the Jewish population of Jerusalem, burned revered documents containing Mosaic law, and threw young mothers and their newly circumcised infant sons to their deaths from city walls. They also looted the temple and desecrated its holy sanctuary by converting it into a shrine to Zeus." Get me? So this happened all over. This happened to Jews constantly. I know y'all don't want to hear. Y'all don't want to hear me talk about it because you think Jews play up victimhood too much. But history is history, and the facts are the facts. I'm not making this up. But let's move on. Let's keep going. But I got 8 pages of notes, and I'm only on page 3. After centuries of relative stability, the Parthians would fall at the hands of the. There's 2 ways you can pronounce this, right? Sassanid, or sometimes it's Sasanian. I use Sassanid because it's easier for me to remember that. The hands of the Sassanid dynasty under the rulership of King Ardashir I in 241 AD, thus sparking a revival of Iranian nationalism or Persian nationalism that would spark a bitter rivalry, listen, between the Persian East and the Roman West. And the same political and ideological landlock exists to this day. To the west, you had the Christian Roman West, or the Greek Christian West, and you had the Zoroastrian East. Sometimes, I pronounce it Zoroastrian. I see sometimes people put that emphasis on that O, right? They kind of make an extra syllable. So I don't know. Some people pronounce it Zoroastrianism. I just say Zoroastrianism, but Zoroastrianism. So Christianity versus Zoroastrianism. You had that lock there, right? And the 2 major players, this rivalry, if you don't understand, you don't know, again, I don't have time to get into it. You can just look over it. But man, and this is why, I see people in the comment section debating, having conversations. Like I said, I'll tell you guys, like I said, for me, this issue is I know it's a spiritual thing for a lot of people. It's a religious thing for a lot of people. I get it. I understand. I'm not trying to poo-poo it. But I will let the people who have a better handle on that information debate it out and present their arguments and present their information. And you make of it what you will. But again, here we're going to talk about a lot of history, a lot of geopolitical stuff that went on in ancient times, moving right on up to modern times, beginning in the 20th century. Because we're going to talk about the past, lay the foundation until we get to the beginning of the 20th century. And so when you're talking about this rivalry between the Persians and the Greeks, nothing signifies that rivalry more so than the wars between Heraclius and Shah Khosrau. Heraclius, the man who saved Rome. If you don't know about Emperor Heraclius, look him up, because Rome was this close to being completely toppled by the Persians. And it was Emperor Heraclius who fought back against, who fought back, because Rome was on the canvas. And it was Heraclius who fought back and pushed the Persians back and saved the Roman Empire. But again, that's a different topic for a different day. So, Matt, so this is why I said this was key. This is why it was so important. While the Romans and the Persians, again, this kind of set the world in motion, because it's still in that ideological landlock to this day. But while the Romans and the Persians were warring, guess what was happening? The Muslims were quietly on the rise. The Muslims were quietly on the rise. Let us go to the Prophet himself, the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad. Muhammad would say, quote, this is a quote, Khosrau will be ruined and there will be no Khosrau after him. And Caesar will surely be ruined and there will be no Caesar after him. And you will spend their treasures in Allah's cause. War is deceit. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. Let me repeat that for Tucker Carlson at the back of the class throwing spitballs on paper airplanes. War is deceit. Perhaps that's why you didn't think you can get an honest answer from the president of Persia, because Muhammad said war is deceit. He said that the Muslims would topple the Romans and the Persians. War is deceit. This saying of Muhammad can be found, I'm going to tell you where you can find it, the Sahih al-Bukhari. That is Sahih al dash Bukhari, Bukhari. It is a collection of hadith compiled by 9th century Persian Imam Muhammad al-Bukhari. The Sahih al-Bukhari is revered as the most important hadith in the Sunni tradition of Islam. But wait, hold on. It's revered as the most important hadith in the Sunni tradition of Islam. But is it Persia or Iran today? Isn't it Shia? Well, why it is? Why, yes, it is. If you know anything about Islam, the Shia Sunni rift began with the assassination in 661 AD of Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law, Ali. So famous, he's just Ali. He's just one name. But his full name was Ali ibn Abi Talib, the fourth successor of Muhammad. Notice how I said that Ali was Muhammad's, this alleged Muhammad, because I've seen some scholars suggest that Muhammad didn't even exist. But of course, we won't go there today. Let's just pretend that he did, okay? And maybe he did. Again, I don't know. But for the sake of argument, let's just say he did. Muhammad, or Ali, was Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law. He was Muhammad's first cousin. He was married to Muhammad's daughter, Fatima. His first cousin was married to his daughter. In 663 AD, Arab forces would invade Mesopotamia, a vital region of the Sassanid Empire, engaging the Persians in a series of battles lasting approximately 20 years, which resulted in the total subjugation of the Sassanid Empire. Most important, most key of those battles was the Battle of Al-Qudaysi in 636 AD. The Battle of Al-Qudaysi, that's spelled Qadisiyah. These Muslim forces were led by Abu Bakr, the first successor of Muhammad and military leader of the Rashidun Caliphate. The Rashidun Caliphate. Remember, y'all, and I know this is a smart audience, so y'all already know that Islam is a conquering religion. It seeks to conquer, subdue, subjugate, murder, maim, and destroy anything, any and everything in its wake. But only, I guess, Europeans can be colonizers. Only Christians can be colonizers. But by the 11th century, after the rise of the Rashidun Caliphate, Persia would become completely Islamized. By the 11th century, Persia had become completely Islamized. We just watch. I love this, y'all. When you look at this note, I'm talking about the Seleucids and the Sassanids and this king and that. I mean, wow. The military industrial complex, I mean, they must have been on one back then, huh? Right? The defense contractors and the war hawks and must have been a lot of neocons back then in each one of these empires. It's funny. The way human beings change, we somehow mysteriously remain the same. War, conflict, civilizations rise, civilizations fall, they contract, they get larger, borders change, rulers change, people change. It's amazing. But somehow you have a lot of these arrogant know-it-alls who believe that they have found a magical way to secure peace. Right? How are we going to do that? We start turning over every rock, right? We got to find every Jew because, of course, they're the ones behind it. Or perhaps if we pay lip service to Islam and let them know that we're not Islamophobic and that we love all people and that we're kind and that we're generous, Maybe they will see our gesture of kindness as, or our act of kindness as a gesture to be reciprocated and not one to be exploited, because no one has ever tried what you are suggesting. For some way, somehow, or for some reason, human beings just can't seem to stop fighting. But you got the magic fix. You know what'll put an end to it. So that's just the brief. You're right. I mean, they are cowards. Is what it is. Pretending, right? And this is how wokeness works. It doesn't matter if you're woke on the left. It doesn't matter if you're woke on the right. This is how it works. In order to prove yourself morally superior, you have to shout down the world, because you know better than everybody else. I put this, I'm gonna try, you know what, y'all? I'm gonna try to show y'all something. We're gonna see how this works. So I put this in here. Where is it? I don't know. Can y'all see? Do y'all see this clip right here? I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can play it. I'm gonna try to play. Hold on. I know y'all can still hear me. I'm trying to. Yep, I know y'all can see it. I'm trying to figure out how to play it though, because like I told y'all, I'm not. I don't know what I'm doing with this. How do you play this, Chuck? All right, hold on, because I want y'all to hear something. I want y'all to hear this exchange.
Here's the difference between me and you. I've actually been a reporter for many, many years. You never have. I can tell you, no journalist who's an actual reporter would read a legal filing and then do a tweet which states as fact in their own words, he's not in jail because he's a Fed CIA asset. Can you try to tell everyone? That's not reporting.
Well, Piers, tell me more. What school did you go to? Tell me more.
I went to Harlow Journalism College in Essex in England.
Well, then we better listen to you guys.
Let's see.
You heard him. We got to trust the experts. And Piers has been a reporter, and he went to a journalistic law school. And therefore, whatever conclusions he makes are the professional and the correct ones. Okay. And you should definitely listen to Piers Morgan.
I do know the difference between reporting on a lawsuit.
So let me pause. Let me pause it for a second, so I contextualize it for you guys, and I'm gonna let you know why I think it's important. This goes to what I'm saying, because see what's happening now. Freedom is hard, okay? I don't have to tell you guys that. Freedom is hard. Life is hard. No matter how wise or smart you think you are, everything that you're trying to solve, every human ailment, malady that you're trying to solve, trust me, you're not special. You're not unique. It has already been tried. It's already been done. Listen, I'm not saying you don't try. I'm not saying that's not what I am saying. But you have to approach things with a certain level of humility, or else it won't work. It won't work. You understand? We are entering an environment where anti-authority, so to speak, is becoming the new authority. Say you don't know, okay, if someone is arguing from a position of authority because of the lies, because of the mismanagement of the mainstream media, all of these things, we have this trust vacuum in America today. And now any and everyone with an opinion can claim validity so long as they can convince the onlooker that they're not a part of the system. So if you listen to this, and my good friend Chad O. Jackson shared this reel with me, these are my thoughts on the reel. I don't even know why Chad can speak for himself, but these were my thoughts on the reel, and it really stood out to me, right? So I'm gonna play it again. Now, this is from Candace Owens this is her own Instagram channel or whatever, YouTube. This is her reel. This is at the real Candace Owens. She says, "Smackdown. Piers tried to smack Candace down." She writes, "You go girlfriend." You all see it. You go girlfriend. Really. Now listen to what Piers Morgan says. Look at her face react to what Piers is saying, and I want you to listen to her comeback. Listen to her comeback. Because if you ask me, it seems as though Piers is the one who's making the most sense. But she thinks she got one over on him. She posted this to her own social media accounts as if it made her look good. I want you to listen to what she says to Piers Morgan. Listen to what he says to her.
Here's the difference between me and you. I've actually been a reporter for many, many years. You never have. I can tell you, no journalist who's an actual reporter would read a legal filing and then do a tweet which states as fact in their own words, he's not in jail because he's a Fed CIA asset. Can you try to tell me? That's not reporting.
Well, Piers, tell me more. What school did you go to? Tell me more.
I went to Harlow Journalism College in Essex in England.
Well, then we better listen to you guys. You heard him. We got to trust the experts. And Piers has been a reporter, and he went to a journalistic law school. And therefore, whatever conclusions he makes are the professional and the correct ones. And you should definitely listen to Piers Morgan.
I do know the difference between reporting on a lawsuit, where you're one removed from the contents of a lawsuit, and stating something as fact. But I don't think you do, because you've never actually been a reporter. That's my point.
Ooh, woo, burn. You got me. You go, girlfriend.
Here's the difference between me and you.
Clown. Y'all see what I'm saying? He explains to her how inept she is at what she's doing. And sure, Piers, and I'm not in love with Piers Morgan. I have serious issues with Piers Morgan. But he make, well, I guess you can call it a mistake. This is a lot of things. You know, people try to accuse Douglas Murray of making this mistake during his debate with Dave Smith on Joe Rogan's show, is trying to appeal to authority, or trying to make an appeal to the onlooker by citing their bona fides. I'm an authority, because you hear Piers, I went to Harvard Journalism School. And so Candace Owens is getting reamed for her shoddy, faux, fake investigative journalism, and Piers is correct. And she's sitting there like, wow, oh God, you got me. So she's making a mockery of him because he's trained, he's learned, he's studied, he has experience, he's old enough to be her father, and he's telling her, you're going about this the wrong way. And the only thing she has to do in order to prove to herself in her own mind and to her sycophantic audience that she got the best of Piers is to make fun of him for citing his credentials. So anti-authority is becoming the new authority. Don't believe anything anybody in the media. Don't listen, y'all. I get it. It's troublesome, but we cannot have a society like that where nobody believes in anything anymore. You're going to find out where that gets us if this trend continues. And I'm not a special pleader for Piers Morgan, but he made a fool out of her. And she was able to save face by essentially mocking him, gaslighting him as he pointed out her severe journalistic malfeasance. Now, moving forward a little bit, now we're going to get into modern day Iran. In 1501 AD, Ismail I would become the first Shah of Persia after leading a successful military insurrection at just 14 years of age. That's pretty impressive. Much more than what I was doing at 14. He led military insurrections, and he became the first Shah of Persia. Although, when you go back to Cyrus the Great, I started to read to you. I don't know if you all are familiar with the cylinder of Cyrus. Cyrus left behind the cylinder with these inscriptions that have been decoded, and Cyrus said a lot of insightful things on this cylinder. You all can look into that. But Cyrus, considered him Cyrus II, considered himself to be the Shah on Shah, which means the King of Kings. As centuries would pass, we would see the growth of the Russian monarchy and the Osman dynasty, otherwise the Ottoman Empire. Both societies, growing in strength, would subdue the Persians, eventually dividing Persian territory in half by 1742 AD. Now, let us move into the 20th century. And while we all came here, I'm not a classicist. The ancient history is not really my thing either, but I just had to lay that foundation down just to show you all how complicated and how ever-changing the face of the earth and the globe is in terms of different peoples and different societies and different warring factions and what have you. Sorry, y'all, for not being in the comment section too much, not reading too much. And let me know if I'm starting to get a little too dark because I'm using natural light and the sun is kind of starting to set a little bit, or maybe, I don't know, I hope it's not about to rain. Need to cut a light on or something, put my ring light on. Okay, here we go. So moving into the 20th century, who is Baron Paul Julius von Reuter? Who is that? Baron Paul Julius von Reuter. Well, I'm going to tell you. Israel Ber Josephat was born July 21st, 1816 in Kassel, Germany, or Kassel, Germany, and died on February 25th, 1899 in Nice, France. And if you cannot tell by the name, Israel Ber Josephat was a Jew. That's the Jewish name I ever heard in my life. Israel Ber Josephat. Josephat would convert to Christianity in 1844 and change his name to Paul Julius von Reuter, a more Germophone appellation. Reuter skirted his Jewish heritage to become a more full-blown member of German society. Again, y'all, I've been talking about this a lot. I alluded to it before in some of my past videos, and this is another thing that really gets the right going. You know, to the right, a lot of folks on the right, their main focus is anything leftist is I don't know how to put this. Pretty much that part of the hostility toward Jews coming by way of a lot of people on the right, as I've mentioned numerous times, is how Jews and communism have become so synonymous because a lot of prominent leading Marxist theoreticians and politicians and revolutionaries, et cetera, have been Jewish. Like I've said in the past, a lot of these same set individuals were, in fact, individuals of German descent. I believe, this is a theory that I have, and I'm going to explore this more, and I may do a video on it, although I already did cover this somewhat extensively in some of my prior videos. I think this has more to do with Germany than it does with Jews. And I say that because I believe that Napoleon, you know, who kind of fashioned himself as the French version of George Washington, of course, and I've talked about the fall of, well, the Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo and in the Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon helped to spread a lot of French ideas into the Rhineland, right? And Napoleon, again, was taking a lot of the ideas of the French revolutionaries and transporting them across various parts of the European subcontinent. And for one reason or another, it really took hold in Central Europe, particularly amongst the Jews who at that time, under whether it was the Austrians, the Habsburgs, the Prussians, and so on and so forth, were subjugated by the Germophile minority or the pan-Germanic minority, causing a lot of Jewish poets, intellectuals, and so on and so forth to find solace in escaping their Judaism, because they saw their Jewishness as a source of struggle and what have you, oppression and so forth. And they also saw a lot of these liberal and enlightenment ideas as the pathway towards some kind of liberation. I talked about this again in the past when talking about Napoleon and his effect on Central Europe and what that did to the Jewish population there. Because if you notice, there seems to be a reoccurring theme when you dig into these things, particularly like the spread of a lot of totalitarian ideas. A lot of bad totalitarian ideas came out of Germany. Also, I'm going to shamelessly plug myself once again. Look into my past video I did called "The Rise of the German Mind." Okay, it just so happened that Jews exported a lot of these German ideas all over the world, because it just so happens that a lot of Jews are, or it just so happens that a lot of intellectuals are Jews. But this is an intellectual enterprise that became synonymous with the entire liberal project. Communism, fascism, Nazism were the expressions, the excessive expressions, the outgrowth of liberalism, the age of enlightenment and reason as it reached its zenith, as it reached its authority. Now you're beginning to see, and I don't know if I'm going to live long enough to see it. I don't know if my grandchildren will live long enough to see it, but we're going back to the age of civilization and tradition, which is marked more so by faith instead of reason. But I think in order to have a healthy society, you need a balance of both. So let's get back to our buddy Josephet here. Reuter was given the title of Baron by the Duke of Sussex Coburg Gotha in 1871, and was later given the rights of this rank in England. The significance of his life is that he will go on to create one of the world's first news agencies, Thomson Reuters. You know it today simply as Reuters. In Great Britain in 1851. Reuters would become the first preeminent news agency in 1865 when the outlet broke the news of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln hours before its competitors. So Reuters was the first news outlet to break the news worldwide of Lincoln's assassination. Reuters would retire from his position as managing director of Thomson Reuters in 1878. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep going, y'all. We try to make this quick because I know this is boring. I know this is tedious, y'all. Reuters is listed on both the Toronto and New York stock exchanges, becoming a media Goliath of both traditional news and financial information for individuals, businesses, and governments worldwide. So Reuters became Reuters, we all know Reuters, big deal, mega company listed on the New York Stock Exchange, the Toronto Stock Exchange, financial advice, traditional media, yada, 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 right? But what does this have to do with Iran, you may ask? Well, for those of you who know the history of Iran, you already know the answer to that question. Reuters, let's go back. Sorry, I lost my place. Here we are. This brings us to the Reuters concession of 1872. This, ladies and gentlemen, would set in motion the events of the century to come. The Reuters concession was a contract signed in 1872 between Baron Julius von Reuters and Nasir al-Din Shah, head of the Qajar dynasty and the then king of Persia. Kahar, I think it's pronounced Kahar. I'm sorry, the Kahar dynasty. That gave the Baron, this is Reuters, control over Persian roads, telegraphs, mills, factories, and public works in exchange for a stipulated sum for 5 years and 60% of all the net revenue for 20 years. Almost immediately, this agreement was widely criticized and even condemned by natives and foreigners alike. The ulama, y'all know what the ulama is? Islamic scholars. The ulama, upon hearing of this, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, the ulama, upon hearing this, were outraged by the concession and began disseminating flyers and pamphlets in Tehran, the capital of Iran, modern-day Iran, proclaiming that a Jew would be in charge of the country's affairs and that he, Reuters, plans to construct a railway through the Haram Motahar, or holy shrine, to Imam Reza, the 8th Imam in 12er Shia Islam in the south of Tehran. So they found out about this industrialist, this capitalist, this Jewish capitalist coming in from Germany and said, no, we can't have that. So the clerics in Tehran got the ball rolling to try and upend this arrangement. These influential religious leaders believed the railroad to be a plan or I'm sorry, let me start the sentence over. These influential religious leaders believe the railroad plan to be a work of Satan that would bring disgrace and spiritual corruption to Muslim land. The Russians, boy, you can't do nothing. Everywhere you go, you're gonna find a Russian, especially if you're talking about the 20th century, that is. The Russians would too get involved, lambasting the deal publicly as protests began to spring up in Tehran. So you see what's happening. You see the foreshadowing. You see what's occurring. Under immense pressure, the Shah would cancel certain clauses within the concession, the railroad and irrigation plan, after the British government refused to support Reuters' unrealistic ambition. So wait a minute. Let me get this straight. So Britain refused to assist Reuters, but wait, hold on. I'm confused. Because didn't I just get finished telling y'all? Israel Beard Josephat, he's a Jew, right? So wait a minute. Britain wouldn't support him. Why? He's Jewish. I thought, wait a minute. Because somebody told me that whenever a Jewish person opens their mouth, everybody else just, or whenever a Jewish motherfucker says jump, everybody says how high. That's what I thought. That's what they always tell me. What you mean the British government wouldn't support him? Go back, I'm gonna plug myself again, go back and watch Neopopulism Part 3 and Neopopulism Part 4, The Rise of Islamo-Communism, and find out what's really going on here. Jews don't run the world, not even close. They show us hell don't run this country, and they wasn't running Great Britain. Again, these are all lies. Propped up by cowards who refuse to confront the inevitable fact. The inevitable fact. You know what that fact is. That's why you're here. What happened at Camp David? What about the Oslo Accords? We're going to get into all of that, right? Since the Jewish lobby controls America, one of the biggest lies, the biggest frauds being perpetrated by a bunch of ignoramuses, know-nothings, know nothing about it. It wasn't even that goddamn long ago. You're talking out the side of your ass. Where you getting this from? Right. In 1890, and you're going to see as we move forward, just wait till part 2 comes out, and we're going to see who really controls America, who America really listens to. In 1890, the Shah would grant yet another concession, and I don't give a damn if you get mad. Challenge me on the facts. Challenge me on the facts, and stop putting out nonsense. I know it's scary. I know. In 1890, the Shah would grant yet another concession permitting the purchase, sale, and processing of Persia's tobacco, which led to a national boycott of tobacco and an eventual withdrawal of the concession. Now, the tobacco boycott is just another bit of foreshadowing, ladies and gentlemen. The tobacco boycott. Let's see. Let's see if I look a little, okay, yeah, I just want to brighten myself up a little bit. I look like I was getting a little dark. Next point. The growing unpopularity amongst several Persian factions to the Shah led to Nasir's assassination in Tehran by Mirza Reza Karmani. I think that I pull up, I think I got a picture of him in here, but you all can, his name is spelled Miraza, Miraza Reza, Miraza Reza, 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 Karmani, Kermani, Reza Karmani, a follower of Jamal al-Din al-Afghani on May 1st, 1896. Now, who is Jamal al-Din al-Afghani? Al-Ghani was a Muslim politician, journalist, and political activist who believed that a revitalized Islamic civilization should be pursued to combat the dominance of European hegemony. Where are we going with this? Where are we going with this? Let's see here. I'm gonna try to fancy it up for y'all. Every time I dang on every time. No, that's not what I want to do. I'm gonna show y'all something. I'm gonna try to get freaky with it, y'all. I'm gonna try to get sexy with it. Do this screen sharing thing. Like I said, I don't know how y'all be doing all this. But I'm gonna get there, y'all. You know, my production quality is gonna get better as time goes on. So here we go, y'all. I want y'all to see. Here is Jamal al-Din al-Ghani. There he is. Okay. I said of him that al-Afghani's beliefs and opinions would help shape and mold Islamic thought throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. But here is what really led to the downfall of al-Din Shah. You want to know what really happened? What really led to his assassination? He diminished the political and cultural power of the clergy by introducing to Persian society the telegraph and postal service. So what that means is the peoples of Persia got to see how other folks from outside of Persian borders live. They start to communicate with other people in other parts of the world. He built roads. He opened the country's first schools offering a Western education. It had been centuries because remember, Persia for a time, and any of you know about Iran prior to the revolution, the February Revolution. You know what Iran was prior to the rise of the Ayatollah, right? But it had a long-standing history because there were a lot of similarities philosophically between Zoroastrianism and Christianity. Now, of course, there is a huge debate among scholars as to whether or not Zoroaster or Zarathustra actually lived, but Zoroastrianism is considered by, according to the beliefs or the tenets of Islam, Zoroastrians are considered to be peoples of the book, because I believe, if memory serves me correctly, Zoroastrianism is to a monotheistic belief system. And so you found similarities between Persian and Greek cultures because, again, Persia and Greece would push each other like a windshield wiper, east to west, east to west. Remember, the Greek Empire or Greek land spread all the way into Northern Africa, Egypt. But again, Persia prior to had gotten so large that Persia too was once part of Egypt, or Egypt too was once part of Persia prior to the Greeks moving in. And so when you get this overlap, this dance of borders, so to speak, you're going to have a lot of blending of cultures. But when Islam came into Persia, it didn't happen right immediately overnight, but the traditions of the ancient Persians, they began to decay. It began to erode over time, slipping away more and more, right? And so the Shah, this is al-Din Shah at the time, he launched Persia's first newspaper as well, which believed in, of course, this brings free thought, free speech, etc. Okay, so the Shah, al-Din Shah, would visit Europe in 1873, 78, in 89 and was impressed with the degree of industrialization and technological advancements. In other words, the Shah was what I said here was a Europhile. He liked European culture. He liked Western values. He liked Western societies. That's why he was assassinated. You see where we're going. Now, around this time, a future prime minister was born on June 16, 1882 in Tehran, Iran, but more to come on him later. But also during this era was born the founder of modern Iran, Reza Shah Pahlavi. Who is Reza Shah Pahlavi? Born Reza Khan on March 15, 1878 in Ashlit, Iran, and dying on July 26, 1944 in Johannesburg, South Africa. During his life, Khan would become a military officer in the Persian Cossack Brigade, eventually leading a British-backed coup in 1921 and usurping all military authority in Iran. Upon seizing control, Khan would declare himself president of Persia, pledging to model his form of leadership after Turkey's secular president, Mustafa Ataturk. Hey, Ataturk was a Jew. Ain't that what Candace Owens said? Okay. The Shia ulama were enraged by these political developments, but were virtually powerless to stop it, as the then Shah of Iran, Ahmed Kahar, who assumed the throne at just 11 years old, was powerless to stop the rise of Khan due to his roles as war minister and later prime minister. Khan seized power in 1925 and crowned himself Reza Shah Pahlavi. But why did this happen? Why did Reza Shah, why did he orchestrate a coup to oust the sitting Shah, Ahmed Kahar, of the Kahar dynasty? The Kahar dynasty was succeeded by the Pahlavi dynasty. Why? Well, Reza Khan was provided diplomatic and intel support by the Western democracies, particularly Great Britain. But why? Why? Oh man, colonialism and this and that, and the CIA, the FBI. Why? Was it MI6? What's the other intelligence agency in Great Britain? I forgot. Why did they do this? Why did they want Reza Khan in place instead of Ahmad Kahar? Well, Reza was provided diplomatic and intel support by the Western democracies, particularly Great Britain, in response to the Bolshevik takeover of Russia in 1917. Doesn't it all come back to the Soviets? This is the, or maybe I'm tripping. Maybe Chuck, you all in on this communism, Marxism thing. Everywhere you go, you see Soviets. So maybe that's me. Maybe I'm tripping. After the October Revolution of 1917, the new communist government terminated all Tsarist agreements with the Persian government, which endeared the Persian faithful to the new regime in Russia. So you see what's happening. The Russian government, they're putting out the Soviets, they're putting out, not the Soviets now, this is post-1917. They're putting out information and putting it in the ear. And mind you, they got boots on the ground in various countries, Persia in particular, telling them the British are exploiting you. The British are taking advantage of you. The British are doing this. The British are doing that. Side with us and we'll free you. Side with us, we'll liberate you. Great Britain had intelligence on the ground in Persia as well. They knew that, wait a minute, a lot of folks within Persian society are beginning to cozy up to the Soviets. We got to do something about this. We need to install a king in Persia who's going to be loyal to us and not the Soviet Empire. I'm sorry, that's the way geopolitics works. I'm sorry if you don't like it. I'm sorry if you think it's bad. Why are we always doing that? Why are we always meddling in other people's business? America first, America only. Nah, motherfucker, that's America last. You retreat from the playing field, your enemies will consolidate power and consume you. But you keep on believing that. America first, war hawks, rhinos, neocon. It doesn't mean that you run headfirst into every conflict. That's not what that means. There is no ideological approach to a conflict. It's survival. I'm sorry the world is the way it is. I didn't make it this way. Oh no, just shout to the heavens. Can we all just get along? In 1919, the Majlis is the Iranian parliament, pretty much. It's like their Congress. In 1919, the Majlis refused an offer from the British of military and financial aid that would have set up Persia as a protectorate of Britain and would keep Persia out of the sway of Soviet influence. As a result, Britain withdrew from Persia, leaving a vacuum for Soviet infiltration. A Persian rebel faction. Hold on. Let me get y'all together real one time for the one time. Let me show y'all somebody so you can know. Not that it matters much, but I just want to, like I said, I'm just playing around with StreamYard and just learning how to work it a little bit better. All right, so here you have, ladies and gentlemen, here you have this man, Mesra Kuchek Khan. Mesra Kuchek Khan. Who is he? A Persian rebel faction would rise, led by Mesra Kuchek Khan, whose agenda was to form an independent communist republic in northern Persia in the province of Gilan. Oh yes, Persia had its fair share of communists, this man being chief among them. I know. Israel refuses to I don't know what your name is. Palsire. Yeah, I know. Israel refuses to officially recognize the Armenian genocide. This is why a lot of Israelis or Jews, of course, they use the term Shoah. They don't like to use the term genocide because it's too generic, and they want to make reference to their Jewish genocide in particular. They use the term Shoah. I know, I get it, right? Israeli won't, but I wonder. See what happened to the Armenians, the Armenian Christians. I wonder what. I wonder who. Oh, okay. I know. Israel won't recognize the Armenian genocide. Tisk, shame on them. It's terrible what those filthy Israelis, what they do to those poor Christians over there, right? Anyway, we're gonna move on. This movement, let me put myself back on the screen because I feel like I'm talking to nobody. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know what I'm doing. This movement, founded by Koshak Khan, not to be confused with Reza Khan, Koshak Khan, was named Nezati Jongal. Nezati Jongal, or in English, it was called the Jungle Movement. The Jungle Movement. And Koshak Khan considered himself the president of the Gilan Socialist Soviet Republic. The Gilan Socialist Soviet Republic. But I know, Chuck, wait a minute, dog. But I thought only Jews are communists. I don't understand this. I don't understand this. From Marx, the Frankfurt School, and this and that, I thought they were all Jews. They were Persian communists as early as the 1920s? How? When? I didn't know. Is there too many facts? Is there too much information? Am I boring you? Koshek Khan would die in 1921 rather unceremoniously alongside a Russian-born German companion and fellow revolutionary of frostbite while hiding in the mountains of Talish. Mesra's head was decapitated and put on display in his birthplace of Rajit as a symbol of terror to all revolutionaries. The head was later sent to Reza Khan until after World War II, where the head was buried in a tomb in Rashid. Hope I'm saying that right. It was Reza Khan, soon to be Shah of Iran at the time, who, with the aid of the British, successfully put down the jungle movement in 1921. The tomb of Mesra Koshek Khan was reconstructed after the Islamic Revolution of 1979. How was Persia under the rulership of the new Shah? This Western puppet, you say? This Western puppet, this guy who the British helped to install? This man was putting down communist revolutions in Persia. The communist revolution that would eventually take Persia in 1979. But we haven't even gotten there yet. But Chuck, it's the mullahs. It's an Islamic state. It's a theocracy. But of course, those of you who know just have a cursory bit of knowledge about the Iranian Revolution, it wasn't just a religious revolution or religious uprising. It was a leftist uprising because the communists and the theocrats were working together. But we haven't gotten there yet, and we're not going to get there with this live. Maybe in the second one, because I'm going to walk you through these phases. Again, as my homeboy Rick Hempstead. Oh, shout out to Rick Hempstead. As you can see, that's his work. My background, that's my man's work. Shout out to him in the comment section, in the live chat. I've been meaning, I said, man, he made that for me for the love, man. I really appreciate that. I didn't ask him to, man. He just did it. So that's what's up. So yeah, I brought the whole Palestine and I already did that. Just check out my Rise of Islamo-Communism video and just refute the facts. Just refute the facts. I'm sick and tired of people with their emotion. I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of it, dog. It's illogical. It makes no sense. Almost 60 of the world's countries are predominantly Muslim, and nearly 24 of the world's countries are predominantly Arab. Just stop it. Palestinian, Gazans, this is not, they are a part of a wider global intifada. They're just on the front lines of an Islamic-backed, ideologically driven movement to exterminate all Jews. This has nothing to do with anything else. I've said this a million times, and I'll prove it again for those of you who are too deaf, dumb, and blind to hear and to know and to recognize the truth. Period, point, but I'm not talking about it anymore. You ain't got to like Jews. You ain't got to be, as a Christian, you can disagree with them theologically. That's not the point. This is about the preservation of the secular law. I'll talk about that another time, because when I said the preservation of the secular law, I know people don't even know what I'm talking about because the word secular has a bunch of negative connotations, but the secular law is needed. The secular law is necessary if you're going to have civilization. I'll talk about that another time. As I mentioned earlier, like Ataturk, Reza Khan was enamored of Western values, mandated the wearing of Western clothes, including hats, which interfered with the ritual of Islamic prayer, and disapproved of the wearing of hijabs. In 1936, the Shah, his wife, and their 2 daughters appeared unveiled in public, during which time he stated, this is quote, the Shah, quote, "The women of our country, because of their exclusion from society, have been unable to display their talent and ability, I must say. They have been unable to do their duty toward their beloved country and people." But the Israelis won't recognize the Armenian genocide. I know. Yeah. Going over to Lebanon, they'd be nice to you. This infuriated the clergy, the mullahs. I haven't used that term yet. The mullahs, of course, is the mullahs is defined as a man of honor, or someone who leads who's the leader of a mosque, or someone who's well respected within the clergy. This infuriated the clergy, as the further secularizing of Persian society would be a point of tremendous friction over the next several decades. In one of his most enduring pronouncements in 1935, Reza Shah declared that Persia would revert to using its ancient name, Iran. I know sometimes I've been kind of using them interchangeably or whatever, but you know, listen, pal, sire, I'm trying not to let you distract. I know Iran recognizes that. I know Iran, they're so lovely. They're so lovely. They're just so lovely. They're just so wonderful. They're just so wonderful. Okay, I know. Wars of deceit, remember? But we're gonna walk through Iran. Oh, I can't wait till I get to the revolution. I'm gonna get to the revolution. I'm gonna talk about the Iranian nuclear. We're gonna go from the whole 20th century. We're gonna move all the way up into Iran in 2015 during the formation of the Iranian nuclear deal. We're gonna walk through it all, and we're gonna really show you what Iran is, and I'm gonna show you what Iran is really all about. The name Iran is believed to be a derivative of sorts of the word Aryan. Persians are believed to be descendants of the peoples of Central Asia who settled in the Indian subcontinent, bringing with them the Proto-Indo-Aryan cultures and languages like Hindu, Sanskrit, Prakrit, Bengali, and the Divahai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But of course, I'm not a linguist, so you guys can look at that. Of course, you have the Aryan languages and you have the Semitic languages. I'm not confident enough in my knowledge of linguistics to break that down, nor did I believe that it was germane to the topic, but I would just mention it that the word Iran is a play on the word Aryan. According to famous and renowned scholar and Islamic researcher Robert Spencer, the Shah may also have made this decision to curry favor with Adolf Hitler. Again, I talked about this in the past. As the Islamic world was inching closer and closer toward close relations with the Axis powers. Remember, this is the 1930s. The reality is that the radical left has always been in cahoots with radical Islam. This goes all the way back, if you believe. This is why I plucked a quote from Whittaker Chambers' memoir, Witness, when he disclosed back in the 1920s as a member of the communist underground in the United States that the Kremlin was pushing for the creation of a Soviet-backed or Soviet-controlled Arabistan. The Soviet Union had sided with the Arabs against the Israelis. This is going all the way back to the 1920s, according to Whittaker Chambers. Now, you try to challenge the bona fides of Whittaker Chambers. I'm not going to do it. You can. This may, in fact, be accurate, speaking of Hitler. It would be the Germans, so the story goes, whose imperial ambitions during the Second World War prompted the Allied powers, that's Great Britain and the Soviet Union, to be precise, to invade Iran to prevent Great Britain's oil and infrastructure interests from falling into the hands of Adolf Hitler. This political failure of Reza Shah Khan led to his abdication of the throne of Iran and the ascension to the throne of his firstborn son, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, on September 16, 1941. We're almost at the end. The rise of Mohammad Mosaddegh, the patriot of Persia. Who is the patriot of Persia? I'm out of water, y'all. Mohammad Mosaddegh was born in 1880 in Tehran and died on March 5th, 1967. I like to do that. I like to give y'all the time span of these people. In Tehran, Iran. Mosaddegh became a political activist early in life, participating in the constitutional movement in 1905, which eventually led to the establishment of Iran's first constitutional monarchy in 1906. Mosaddegh would leave Iran to study political science in Paris in 1901. Now, this is key because Paris is going to resurface later, not in this talk, but in part 2. After returning home for a time, Mosaddegh would move back to Europe to receive a doctorate in law at the University of Neuchâtel. I don't know. That's a Swiss word. Swiss, that's the language, right? That's what the Swiss people of Switzerland, they speak Swiss, the Swiss people, Swiss language. Anyway, That's the best way I can know how to pronounce it there. The University of Neuchâtel in Switzerland in 1914. In 1917, Mosaddegh accepted a government position as deputy director of Ministry of Finance, where he earned the reputation of a fighter for the people, and one who was dedicated to ridding Iran of political corruption, mainly exploitation of Iran's resources by foreigners. Doesn't that sound awfully familiar? Mind you, he's a fighter of the people, but he was a very privileged and very well-educated man. Of course, receiving his education in Western institutions in Switzerland and Paris. But of course, he comes back to Iran, and all of a sudden, he's a fighter for his people. Mosaddegh became obsessed with one goal, quote, to put an end to 150 years of British political interference, economic exploitation, and plunder of Iran's natural resources by engineering the nationalization of Iran's oil industry. He wanted the Iranian government to nationalize Iran's oil industry. Now, how could that go wrong? Government takeover of your most precious resource, your most precious asset. For those of you, you don't have to be goddamn an Austrian economy. You don't have to be Ludwig von Mises to know where this is going to go wrong. Skipping over years in which Mosaddegh served at various levels of government in Iran, I didn't feel like I need to go into too much detail. We're going to jump all the way to April 1951. Mohammad Mosaddegh would be nominated for the position of prime minister by a nearly 90% of the representatives for the National Front. This was this political coalition. It was a political coalition of several parties in support of oil naturalization. As a result of his growing popularity, the Shah, as a result of Mossadegh's growing popularity, the Shah had no choice but to appoint him to prime minister that same year. In November of 1951, after a diplomatic trip to the United States, Mosaddegh landed in Farouk Airport under the pretense of uniting with Egypt for the purpose of pushing decolonization and combating Western imperialism. It's the same script. It's the same thing over and over and over again. You're going to trade in Western imperialism for Soviet imperialism. You're going to trade in American imperialism or Christian for Islamic imperialism. You're going to trade in Israeli supremacy, Israeli imperialism with Iranian superiority. It's just people are power hungry. That's human nature. It's just some people's idea of civilization are better than some other folks' idea. Are you willing to deal with those consequences? Why the Tucker Carlsons and Candace Owens of the world slop and slobber all over Islam, slobber all over Iran, slobber all over the Gazans and the Palestinians? Are you willing to deal with the consequences of what happens or what's going to happen when you sabotage your own country from within by giving a platform to the president of Iran, where you, in your own words, don't ask him hard questions because you know he's going to lie to you? You can't make this shit up. And some of y'all still love him. By this time, of course, Israel was considered among one of these imperialists. Israel is an imperial project, so this was a huge part, a huge aspect of Soviet propaganda. Again, go and check my previous videos when I talk about how the Soviets helped promulgate that belief amongst the international left that Israel was a Western colonial project. But no, not the Turkish Empire. No. There was no imperialism that happened like that. How in the fuck do you think you become an empire? What is an empire? Okay. All right. But see, you can't lose a war and then cry foul. You can't get your ass whooped in it. Okay. You didn't have a problem when Palestine was under Turkish jurisdiction. No, but it can't be independent of its own. Okay. All right. In Cairo, Mosaddegh was mobbed by thousands of Egyptians chanting, "Long live Mosaddegh, long live Iran." In its January 1952 issue, Mosaddegh was named Time Magazine's Man of the Year for 1951. I swear to God, boy, I tell you. You motherfuckers throwing them around. I'm about to, hey man, I don't even know how you do moderators and all that shit, because I'm about to bounce this person out the chat. Because I'm trying to get through my, it's not that I like debate. I love conversations. I love free speech. I'm not one of them people that likes to silence it. I don't do that. Do what you want to do. Say what you want to say. People talk crazy in the comment section, say stuff about me, call me. I don't block nobody. I don't do all that unless it just gets so, I don't think I've never really had to block anybody. For real. Did I? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Y'all remember Mitch and his little crew. I think I bounced one of them. I bounced him, and he kept coming back under different names. but go back and check some of my other videos. I did a whole live stream with another fellow YouTuber by the name of Sub-Zero, where I talked about how colonization civilized the world. Colonization on its face is not a bad thing. Again, what the hell did I just say a couple of minutes ago? That some people's ideas are better than others. There has never been a time when a people's didn't transition into something that was objectively superior in relation to something else without there being a momentary phase of imperial conquest, because people's cultures clash, they come into conflict, and some folks have to be subdued. That's the way it works. That's why you think I just walked through all this ancient history talking about the different dynasties of the Near and Middle East. Colonization is not a bad thing. You're going to have to succumb to somebody's rule, whether you like it or not. Render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Everybody talking shit. But if I were to plop you in the Middle East somewhere, I know where you would much rather live. So save me, miss me, with all of the gobbledygook and all of the bullshit. Because no amount of intellectualizing is going to make this shit make sense, because people make decisions with their feet, with their dollars, etc. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm living. So miss me with all that. You can try to twist yourself into however many different mental pretzels and gymnastics. You want to play this game? Go ahead. We'll see how you really feel about it when you got skin in the game. We'll see how you really feel about it when your ass is on the line. We'll see. But it's easy to talk shit on your computer about Israel and about Zionists and about colonization. God damn it, America used to be a colony, a collection of colonies. Not anymore, but we used to be. And thank God for that. Oh, I'm sorry. You want to go back to what it was like in the United States pre-1492. That's what you 1452. That's what you want. How about you just move out of your home and go erect a goddamn teepee on the corner somewhere and throw out your smartphone and start putting up smoke signals? People make no goddamn sense to me. None whatsoever. I'm all for colonialism. Show me a better way. As the political struggle between the premier and the Shah persisted, the Shah attempted to oust Mosaddegh in 1953, which resulted in mobs taking over the streets, forcing the Shah to flee the country. Within a few days, however, a counterinsurgency overthrew Mossadegh's regime and restored the Shah to power in a coup orchestrated by the United States and Great Britain. There you go again, those Western colonialists interfering with Persia, interfering with Iran. Mosaddegh, a leftist, took the country over, and the United States and Great Britain threw him out and put the Shah back in again. But it's colonialism. It's interference. It's not being America first. What a shame. Because I know the peoples of Iran would much rather be left up to their own devices, self-determination. Leave it up to them to decide what kind of country they want to be. Who is it up to you to say? Okay. These are just rhetorical questions, y'all. Just something on your mind to think about. It's easy to say when you don't have to live there. Iran chose this. Now, see, the whole issue of Iranian oil is very complicated, and I don't have time to get off into it. No, I have time to get off into it. But it's a very complicated story. At this time, to shorten it up, I didn't type this out. I just wanted to go off the dome because the Soviets were trying to move in on Iranian oil too. The British had a long-standing relationship going all the way back to the concession and Reuters. I talked about that. But it had gotten to a point where Iran made the decision to strengthen its relationship with the United States as at the expense of Great Britain. But Great Britain was okay with it, but Great Britain looked to the United States and said, okay, y'all deal with this now. Because this kind of marked the hegemonic paradigm shift globally round about the time of the Second World War, when Great Britain would take a step back and the United States would take a step forward. Same goes with, when the British mandate for Palestine ended with the UN revolution and Israel gained its independence in 1948, was it May 14th? Well, that's when the United States under Harry Truman stepped in to sort of like become the main kind of driving force that could secure that could guarantee some sense of security for the region. And this kind of happened with Iran as well, where you began to see the United States take a more prominent role in Iranian affairs. Mosaddegh was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment for treason and spent the remainder of his life on house arrest upon his release. While it is true that the Pahlavi dynasty, beginning with Reza Shah Khan, the father, began cracking down on political dissent with the creation of the Iranian secret police, there were subversive elements within the country looking to dismantle the monarchy, all of whom supported Mosaddegh to one degree or another. This was especially true of the Moscow-backed Two-Day Party of Iran. What is the Two-Day Party? Table that. You'll get into that next time. Some of y'all probably gonna jump ahead. You might start doing your own research so you can figure out what the Two-Day Party is on your own. Flashing back to 1940, but the fact that Moscow backed the Two-Day Party should tell you everything that you need to know. Flashing back, though, to 1940, on July 26th, Reza Khan, the father, sent his secret police to the home of Mosaddegh, where he was arrested and imprisoned in a citadel in Persian. Maybe I might not be pronouncing that correctly, but Birjand. Reza Khan released Mosaddegh from prison in November of 1940, opting to confine him to house arrest indefinitely. The following year, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the son and Nusha, in a gesture of goodwill, would commute the sentence of Mosaddegh, upon which time he quickly reassumed his political activities. Now we're going to end this, y'all. Just wanted to, again, play around with my first live stream. I'll be back at y'all maybe in a week or two, and we're going to pick up where we left off here. And yeah, it's going to be real interesting. This was just a teaser. Next one going to be real juicy. Now, in 1944, Mosaddegh was elected to the 14th Majlis with overwhelming support from the electorate of Tehran. Contrary to what Mosaddegh apologists claim, he massively failed at resolving the country's oil crisis and nearly plunged the entire country into complete insolvency. Of course he would. Why wouldn't he? The nationalization of Iran's oil industries, of course. You want to kick out the exploiters? You don't want any foreign investment? Where's your brain trust? And you wonder why Africa fails, parts of Asia, Latin America fails. Kick out the white man. We can handle it. Okay. Because the only reason why you couldn't handle it is because you were oppressed, right? I mean, it makes sense to me. But no, human capital does not develop in a vacuum. Sometimes it takes ages, centuries, for certain groups of people to develop certain habits and certain abilities, traits. It doesn't just happen because human beings aren't the same. Every group is not the same. It has never been true, and it never will be true. And the more and more we try to manufacture equal outcomes, well, we just create new disasters. I wanted to expound, or perhaps we just create the same disaster over and over again. And so you see, to go back, you see, so I mean, it's funny because I went on I don't use AI and chat GPT. I mean, I guess Google, I guess that's a form of artificial intelligence, but I like to look stuff up, but I don't use like chat GPT and all this stuff. I just, because first of all, I forget they even exist. That's for one. For two, I'm a reader. I like to go to the source. I like to read books. I like to listen to other not other intellectuals, but actual intellectuals and scholars that I respect. And I like to hear them break things down, right, and explain things and explain histories. I don't leave it up to AI to tell me things, and if I don't have a lot of fear, I don't have the same concerns about AI that a lot of other people do for different reasons. That's a totally separate conversation. But I do understand this belief that perhaps AI is on the verge of kind of creating an alternate reality. And it can be extremely scary. I'm gonna tell you guys. Hold on, wait. Should I try to screen share? Should I try this one more time? Nah, I ain't gonna. Hold on, wait. Let me see. Let me see if I get. I want to share something with y'all because I had this. Chad O. Jackson. There's Chad again popping up. Chad shared with me a screenshot from that clip of myself that went viral. When I was on a podcast, and somebody, let me see if I can bring it in. This is hilarious to me. It's made me laugh. Let me see if I can find this, y'all. I want to try to find a way to put this image into. Let me see. Where is the StreamYard? Nah, I ain't gonna do. I can't do it, y'all. I can do it. It can be done. I just don't know how, so I'm not gonna waste y'all time. But there's a screenshot. Chad sent it to me, and the others in our group chat. A photograph of me during that debate, and the person asked AI. It's one of those AI programs called Grok. Is it Grok? Something starts with a G, but it's not Chat. It's not Chat GPT. It's something else. And they said, "Who is this guy in the yellow?" And Chat GPT said, "I'm gonna tell y'all what Chat GPT said. I can't bring it. I can't bring it to the screen, but I'm going to read it to you all so you can know what the person said." It says, yeah, it's called Grok, Grok. Who is the man in the yellow? I know a lot of y'all have seen that clip of me with the yellow hoodie on and the sunglasses and the Steelers cap. Grok, which I guess is an AI app, whatever, you ask it questions. It said, the man in yellow wearing a Pittsburgh, why am I talking like a robot, like a computer? It just came out like that, y'all. The man in yellow wearing a Pittsburgh Steelers cap is likely Ty Smith, host of the Cancel This podcast. He is known for going for a viral video criticizing critical race theory, where 2 million, which was viewed 2 million times, and discusses the topics like the racial divide, Obama, Trump, and such and so forth. So apparently my name is Ty Smith, y'all, from the Cancel This podcast. I don't even know who the hell that is. Y'all know who Ty? I don't know who that is. I hope he's a good looking man, handsome man. Might be an upgrade from my actual face. But AI told me, I mean, it's me. I know it's me. So artificial intelligence is not, I guess it's not sentient. Like it can only put out what human beings put into it. So I guess because I'm a relative unknown, I guess AI just didn't know who I was, didn't know what to say. How about say you don't know? Don't tell, say I'm somebody. Who the hell is Ty Smith? You know what that is. So, maybe my parents got some explaining to do. Maybe that's my real name. I need to go check my birth certificate. Maybe I don't know, man. Maybe it was a Jewish ploy to swap my identity or some shit. Man, I don't know. Maybe Maybe. I don't know. Because if Harvey Weinstein is innocent, if Harvey Weinstein was set up by a powerful Jewish cabal, then maybe my name is Ty Smith, right? It's funny, you know, you run cover for one Jew just so you can get to the worst one, to the, you know. We want the real bad ones. You ain't that bad, Harvey. We want the ones that are really in control, right? So we finishing out. I can hear the storm going. I think it's about to rain here. So contrary to what, yeah, so I read that. So let me read it again, so you all know where I'm leading into. So contrary to what Mosaddegh apologists claimed, he massively failed at resolving the country's oil crisis and nearly plunged the entire country into complete insolvency. But expelling the prime minister would come at a grave cost to the Pahlavi dynasty. But more on that to come later. At his trial, Mosaddegh would say in open court, listen to the sentiment. Yes, my sin, my greater sin, and even my greatest sin is that I nationalized Iran's oil industry and discarded the system of political and economic exploitation by the world's greatest empire. Again, every single solitary poo butt, lighten the loafers, it's the same, every single solitary, the same script. It's not no when in Rome, do as. It's not learn from the people who actually know what they're doing. It's no, look at what they have. You don't have it. And the reason why you don't have it is because they are taking from you. So what they have actually and rightfully belongs to you. That's an easy emotion to gin up in people because people by nature are more susceptible to negative emotions. Classic demagogic tactic on behalf of Mosaddegh. This, he says, quote, this at the cost of myself, my family, and at the risk of losing my life, my honor, and my property. With God's blessing and the will of the people, I fought this savage and dreadful system of international espionage and colonialism. So if you look in this is why I got off into that segue about AI, because if you pull up Mosaddegh and you go to if you ask AI to give you an answer, AI is going to tell you how wonderful Mosaddegh was, how he was again a fighter for his people. Yes, he nationalized Iran's oil industry, but it talks about how he was persecuted and oppressed by the authoritarian dictates of the Shah, the arbitrary and authoritarian dictates of the Shah. So the Shah was an authoritarian, you see. I started to give a laundry list of Iran and what happened in Iran from 1941 to 1979. I'm going to do that probably in a later video, but I want to talk about what Mohammad Reza Pahlavi did in Iran that actually benefited the country. The reason why the Shah is seen by left wing, by the more left wing, or we're going to call it woke, whether on the woke left or the woke right, historical narratives about the Shah is because of what was going on in Iran proper politically on the ground, because he knew that there were subversive elements afoot in his country. The same can be said of Fulgencio Batista in Cuba. The same can be said to some extent of Augusto Pinochet. The same can be said to some extent of Franco in Spain. Again, this is not trying to. This is not to give some excuse to try to whitewash over, because again, the story is far more complicated. Again, the story is far more complicated. And no, I'm not saying that all these men were good men and everything that they did. But what ended up happening was the alternative to their rule were things that ended up being a lot worse. That's why, one of the hallmark and bedrock principles of conservatism is to move slowly, to walk slowly. To live is to delay. To live is to delay. You delay change, especially when someone comes forth talking about whole sweeping changes, because if there's one thing true about human beings and humanity is that we have a keen way about ourselves in terms of perseverance. Human beings, we adapt, we persevere. This is why all this talk about climate change, it's all bullshit. Because when it's all said and done, humanity finds a way. If you keep it steady and consistent, right? What that does is that shapes, that creates a process, a system of incentives and constraints that human beings can then model their behavior around and after. That's what allows for a healthy and functioning society, is that people know what to expect. And people know what to expect because they become accustomed to conventions. They become accustomed to traditions. Doesn't mean that things don't change. But you have to think. There has to be some introspection. You have to think about what you are doing. People adapt. They will find a way. Always. No matter what. Human beings, until God snaps his divine fingers and says it's over, until then, don't worry. Humanity, we will be fine. There's going to be some catastrophic events, some extinction level events. Half the population may get wiped out by some natural event or some man-made event. I don't know. But when it's all said and done, human beings, we ain't going no fucking place. You can believe that. You can believe that. So again, all this talk, about these dictators. The Shah was a dictator. You see, the communists had no choice. Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement, they had no choice because things were so bad. You see, yeah, I know that they were cozying up to leftists, Marxist, communists who want to destroy everything in their wake, but everything was so bad. You see, when you have a society, and this is how they exploit our system of tolerance and free speech and all the great things that define the liberal world order. This is how they exploit it. Free speech and these kinds of things. Open debate, open dialogue, open discussion. People who want to enslave you just pose as though they're just like everybody else. I have a point of view. I just want to express myself. That's it. That's not it. That's not it. And so what happens is when you have these strong armies, heavy-handed governments, whether they be autocratic, monarchical, whatever. In the case of Iran, it was a constitutional monarchy, right? When you have these governments that, in short, ain't gonna put up with your bullshit, you don't end up with Sri Lanka. You don't end up with India. That became so racked and so war-torn that it had to create a separate state called Pakistan. And then Pakistan had to become Bangladesh. The conflict within Sri Lanka the bloodshed was so out of control that even the Indian government had to step in because the war was spilling over into India. We don't know the story and the history of the Sri Lankan Civil War, just look it up. But you don't have those sorts of things, say, for example, in countries like Singapore. Find out, go to Singapore and fuck around. You're gonna fuck around and find out. Break the law in Singapore. See what happens. You're going to find out. So what do you want? You either want heavy-handedness or you want a more free and tolerant society. That's going to give way to a new form of tyranny. And of course, Mosaddegh would die under house arrest in 1967. So that concludes part one of Iran, the true Satan. Just wanted to lay the groundwork, let you all know where the roots of a lot of the conflicts in Iran began. And we're going to pick up again. I don't know when I'll be live again, maybe a week, 2 weeks. We're going to go into, we're going to talk about the two-day party. We're going to talk about the rise of the Iranian communist movement, the clergy, the mullahs, and so on and so forth, and the partnership between those two factions. And of course, by the next talk, the next installment, we're going to introduce to the discussion, to the scene, none other than Pahlavi Khomeini, the Ayatollah of Iran. All right, y'all. Thanks for sitting in. I know I went off the cuff. Pal, sire, I mean, no disrespect. Again, I may have even taken some of your comments out of context because I couldn't focus on everything that you were saying. But thank you for participating in the chat nonetheless. Thank you for everybody who came here. If you're watching this on replay, just make sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe, share, do a thumbs up and all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Don't know when Cutting Through the Culture will be back on. I don't know when the MLK project will be released, but all of that stuff are projects that's coming up that I am a part of. And in the meantime and in between time, I will play around with StreamYard a little bit more, so that way hopefully I can bring you guys a better production, higher production quality and a better presentation once I learn how to better work this program and work this app. All right, y'all. Peace out. I'll see y'all next time. One.